Awesome. All right, welcome to the very first episode of the Inside 2021 podcast with your hosts, Connor McGrath
and Logan Connor.
First of all, we'd like to thank Miss August for giving us the opportunity to do this, and Dr. Justice for the support and the time out of advisement to work on this.
Also, we would like to thank Miss Tweehus for being willing to give up her room for us to record.
Even if that didn't pan out, it's still really nice to get support from people, so thank you for all that. So this podcast is basically going to be a bi-weekly podcast about the goings-ons of the 2021 group.
So on the podcast we're planning, although there won't be any this week, we are planning to have guests on in the future so they can also talk about the goings-on of the 2021 graduating class.
Absolutely. This podcast's goal is to help bridge the communication gap and the spirit gap between the student council, the teachers, and the students themselves. And I think that this is a great way to get the ideas out there, the events out there, and all those kinds of things.
To start with, let's talk about the college seminar that happened on Tuesday.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, the counselors led a juniors-only college seminar, which was about the preparation for college. There was a lot going on about the SATs, and there was just a lot of basic information given about what to expect for the juniors this year about college. And if you didn't get to attend, that's fine. It wasn't a necessary thing to do, but it definitely helps show what's going to be going on this year and what you can expect. So I think that was pretty cool. They brought up, they're going to be helping us with SAT for the first time. I believe they said for the first time there's actually going to be a lab to help with our essays. So we'll have
that's going to be so helpful.
Mm-hmm. So for any application, and it's not even like an out-of-school thing. It's going to be like part of our literature class this year. We're going to get the chance to draft some essays and get feedback.
That's going to really help because I know a lot of us, me being one of the guilty parties, would prefer not to do stuff like this outside of school, but if it's in school, it would be a very good opportunity.
Absolutely. I think that the preparation shown for this is really important because it shows that, as juniors, we're becoming upperclassmen, but we're still in this weird limbo where I think we see ourselves as like kids, but also adults. So it's important for us to, not take ourselves too seriously and focus on school stuff. But we also have to be looking ahead.
Look ahead at our colleges, but since we're still not technically adults, we still get to enjoy ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to be always business all the time, especially during stuff like assembly. Our class especially has an extraordinarily hard time participating.
Definitely.
And part of it is because, yes, we really don't enjoy having our advisements taken away, but part of it might be for some people that they think it's cool to not participate.
I think something a lot of people fail to realize is, even though, a lot of the times, it's just, it's another pep rally. Every time that there's any kind of assembly, whether it's, it's a Wish Week thing, which people are actually pretty good about, or a pep rally, or I don't know. What else do they do assemblies for?
Veterans Day assembly.
Sure.
Just general assemblies and pep rallies.
For all of those, no matter if you enjoy it or not, there's still a ton of work that goes into that. And both teachers and students are active participants in that. So if you're not showing that kind of support, just
try to have fun.
Yeah,
you don't need to enjoy it, but try to have fun while you're there.
Yeah, I'm 100% guilty of this too. I was strongly against assemblies for a long time.
It's like Mr. Brackney said. We're older, and the rest of high school is going to be a lot more fun if we laugh at ourselves and enjoy the time we still have here versus when we grow up and we're going to have to face that scary thing called life.
So the college seminar definitely helps prepare for that. It talked about budgeting. It talked about the difference between community college and public college and how that might not be so bad. It talks about SATs. It talks about PSATs. It talks about just national scores. So if you weren't there, you should definitely talk to one of your counselors about it if you have any concerns. Definitely something to go over. But definitely a good thing.
So the back to school dance happened on Friday.
We
saw your pictures, and I actually wish that I had gone because that would have been a lot more fun than working at a King Soopers.
It was really cool seeing you guys, take that step to, be an example for the lower grades and have fun with it too. Because some of the pictures we saw, you guys are in these fun outfits and clearly just, enjoying yourself. And I think that really goes to show that, if you just leave yourself open to it, it's going to make life easier.
Shout out to Connor Wilcoxon for wearing that amazing hat and scarf.
What did he wear?
He wore a hat that had the long arms, and he wore the arms as a scarf, and it had a panda on the top. And I
Oh,
thought
cool. Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah. Just, being goofy with stuff, it makes it better, and that's one of the things that, you actually need to learn that. Another way to be taken seriously is to not take yourself too seriously, because if you're putting out all these, grumpy vibes, and the underclassmen see that, even if you don't intentionally mean it, it's still going to give off the impression that maybe this isn't worth going to.
We're upperclassmen this year, which means that we don't have to be kicked around by two people above us.
Kicked around is strong, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, we can have fun, and we have a bit more freedom than we used to have. Just have fun. Don't break any major rules like breaking stuff, but just have fun.
Yeah, just you're still kids for the most part. And speaking of kids, next week is the 6th graders are going to be going towards outdoor ed, and for a lot of you, I'm sure this is going to be strange for you because I know a ton of you have siblings in 6th grade. It was a really fun thing to do, and I'm actually going to be going as a volunteer. So I think that it's really cool to see how these next generations are going to experience outdoor ed. And just as I've been volunteering, and as I've actually been doing summer volunteering stuff for Stone Canyon, which is where it takes place. It's been interesting to see the same people that we first went to outdoor ed with grow and change, and some of them are gone and they're new people, but I think it's still a really cool environment for middle schoolers.
And another big thing about volunteering at outdoor ed is that you get a lot of service hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like after this year, you're pretty much done.
Absolutely.
This is your 2nd year in a row. So if you want a bunch of service hours, next year it would be a very, very good idea to go to outdoor ed. Is it Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
This next week it's gonna. I believe it starts on the 23rd. I'm looking at my watch. Nope, 23rd is tomorrow. 26th? I think it starts on the 26th. It starts on Monday next week, and it's going to end on Wednesday of next week. But it's already been closed because everyone has to go through training. Everyone has to get taught on how to deal with kids in different situations.
Yeah. But if that sounds fun to you guys, look into it for next year, because I know that a few people haven't had any community service hours.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to lose track of, but since I've done it each year, after you do it, and it's right at the beginning of the year for Skyview, after you do it, you're just good for the rest of the year, and that means a lot more freedom in what you're doing around and after school.
On Wednesday this week, it was the very first meeting of the Super Smash Brothers Club.
Yeah, the Super Smash. Oh yeah. That was a weird transition. I just said yeah 3 times.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
90s flashback.
What are you talking about?
Flashback to the 90s when they said yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm being an idiot.
Okay.
Connor Wilcoxon and Sabrina Hirsch are the main 2 people behind bringing the Super Smash Brothers Club to Skyview. If you really enjoy general fighting games or are just a massive fan of Nintendo franchises, the meetings are held on Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4:30 in Mr. Ray's room.
You should definitely check it out. I know Smash has become a really popular game these days just because it's pretty accessible. It's a party game.
Everybody's playing it at lunch. If they brought their Switch, chances are they're playing Smash Brothers.
Absolutely. In our meeting yesterday, we held a tournament, which is probably going to be a more common occurrence. And of course, Connor Wilcoxon won.
I made it into the finals against Connor, and I did not have a wise pick.
Well, when Logan and I ended up going against each other yesterday, and
in the semifinals.
In the semifinals, yeah, and it was a good battle, but he was able to get past me with Inkling.
And then I decided to use a little electric rat against Connor's main. And
yeah.
For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the character in a fighting game that somebody uses the most.
Anyway, if you're interested in all in that, go ahead and check it out. You can get information from either us on the podcast or Connor Wilcoxon and Sabrina Hirsch, as Logan stated earlier. They are the club founders. And if you're interested, it's actually free, which is a really cool prospect for that. And
you don't have to worry about having a Switch or a controller. Mm-hmm. All of that will be provided for you at the club.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to play either. That's another important thing.
You can come and watch And there might be one person like what I do. I will bring my Switch, and people who haven't played before can learn on that before they enter the tournament.
Yeah. So it's a really cool environment. For information, go ahead and talk to either of us or Connor Wilcoxon and Sabrina Hirsch. Those are the founders. And if you want to get in, all you have to do is just let them know, preferably ahead of time. And a good thing about trying to join right now is they're really trying to get the club off of its feet right now as we speak. The meeting we just attended was actually the first one. So by even expressing interest in this club, you're going to help them, keep this thing alive, and it's gonna help make the school a better place. So we actually saved this last topic for last, and was this last week? It was exactly 1 week ago. The juniors had a meeting in the library about. With the student council, Hannah, Christian, and Eloise, if I remember correctly.
Where Jeremy decided to bring up an idea that I think was very well received by the large majority of the junior class.
Yeah, and this sparked some conversation both between Logan and I, which actually led to the idea of this and Miss August being on board, but also just between the student council, the teachers, and the students. And saying that sounds weird because student council also is students, but that's just the distinction we're making in this instance. If you're not familiar with Jeremy's idea, it was to edit the shirt that had previously been made
and make it more of a prison theme shirt by adding your locker number on the front and then on the back saying to be released in 2021.
It's a funny but ambitious idea.
And it got a bit of pushback from some people, and since there's a large group, maybe finding a common middle ground would be the best way to go, which would be an amazing idea to bring up in the junior group chat or go to the student council representatives. Because if you really are passionate about an idea, it would be best to go to the people who are going to be able to definitely make it happen.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that really stood out to me about the meeting was the way that, when these ideas were being brought up, it wasn't actually taken too seriously. There were a lot of people making jokes about it. And I think that the weird thing is, even though all these jokes were being made when Jeremy got up to give his idea, this is partially a shout out to Jeremy just because of how professional it was. He was super respectful about it. He said, I appreciate your design. I think you guys are really trying hard, and I appreciate what you're doing. But I also had this idea, and I just wanted to know what you think. And I think partially one of the reasons that it struck a nerve with so many people was that it was brought to the attention of everyone at the same time. There were teachers, students, and student council present. So it wasn't a one-on-one thing or a online thing where things can get lost in translation.
He had a captive audience, and the audience happened to really like his idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that while it may be hard to achieve this kind of thing, I think student council handled it well while facing a little bit of pushback against their ideas, which upon further inspection were actually pretty interesting ideas, and I think really are gonna it's really gonna show how mature we can be as a class, especially with the cowbells. I think that's a really cool idea, especially because we're bad with spirit. But I think
and if you really hate cheering, cowbells are good. But you guys also have to remember that doing it in the hallway is a surefire way to get our entire grade in trouble, which would cause another meeting or an assembly during the precious advisement time.
If you remember last year, if you were here last year, I know there are a couple students who are new, but if you were here last year, you'll probably remember that there was a certain teacher who received a lot of attention during assemblies, and I think that while it was funny and while it was fun, and I think that as a whole, it actually did bring the class together. It does also show a little bit of not really paying attention to the things people are actually putting work towards.
There's a time and a place for everything. Joking around about that is okay, but when there's your fellow classmates, whether it be student council representatives or people who did Wish Week, it shows a certain level of. Would you say disrespect, or would you?
I don't want to say disrespect because I don't want to cause a controversy.
Yeah.
But I think more maturity could have been shown, and I think if we can show.
It shows a certain lack of maturity because these people have worked very, very hard, and they're just trying to do their best to make sure everybody has a good time.
Absolutely. I think we didn't show enough restraint then, but I think if we can show restraint now, it'll both prove that we're maturing and we're growing up, and we're going to be the upperclassmen that people can look up to.
Maybe instead of doing the chant of the old teacher, we could start doing the junior chant.
Yeah.
Showing a complete 180 from those from when we were sophomores to being the juniors who know, because you guys obviously likes chanting something.
Yeah.
Why not turn it into something that'll get everybody excited for what's happening?
As a side note, I think it's actually really interesting, going back to last year, the way the chant was formed, it was never an agreed upon thing where everyone was just like, okay, we're going to go to this thing and we're going to do it. It was always something that, would start out small with just a couple people doing it and then would get grasped onto. And that actually shows, I think, in my opinion, that the junior class, or the class of 2021 rather, has the ability to put together something and make it happen, even if it's something doofy. And if we can doofy, that's not a word.
The main point of this podcast is to increase communication, and the chant last year, as everybody has their own opinions on it, but the underlying fact remains that nobody came together, and there wasn't a big group of people who are like, okay, let's do this during this, and this. Mm-hmm. It was just a general consensus.
Yeah.
And if we can start doing positive things using that method.
Absolutely. I definitely agree that we as a class need to start setting examples for the future class. And that's not to say, we can't still have fun, but I think it's important to do that. So,
by the way, shout out to the student council representatives. They have been working all summer to plan stuff for us. They took away from their summer and probably from their families and friends just to make sure that this year would be amazing. And so far, I think that they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. And even if you don't agree with what they're doing, or rather, even if you don't agree with the shirt design or any plans they might have, you should still appreciate the fact that they took the time to plan it at all. Whereas it's easy to sit back and just be like, I don't like that idea. But you haven't come up with an idea.
If you don't like the idea, they say go up to them, have an honest conversation, because the hardest thing about designing that shirt is that nobody wanted to come up and tell them what they wanted. They just had to guess.
Yeah.
So if you have opinions on, this would be really cool. Like an example today, that happened today was in choir class. While we were doing stuff, some people came up with a shirt idea for the choir, and everybody was like, this is cool, but can we change this and this and this? And right now we're working on a new shirt design for the choir class. And what we could do is that we could all go up to Hannah, Christian, and Eloise and talk to them and say, hey, this idea is really cool, but could we also add this? And then maybe we could join the group chat, and in the group chat they can post the ideas that they have, and once we have a general consensus, that's a shirt that everybody had a part in making.
Absolutely. I think if we strive towards just better communication, it's really going to help out. So I just wanted to leave an open-ended question about, as juniors and now as upperclassmen, what's the class load looking like? Because I've heard different things from different people that the class load for juniors is, it can either be really hard or really easy, and I think that's something worth discussing. So, if you have any thoughts about, the junior class load, go ahead and let us know. Each podcast, I think we came up with an idea for a segment where we'll just recommend something to you just based off of, what's going on. And clearly you're going to be bored without the podcast for weeks. I'm sure we already mentioned it's bi-weekly, but just 2 recommendations for things. Recommendation number 1 is if you like spicy food, try Tokyo Joe's Pad Thai. It's really good. I used to work at Tokyo Joe's, so if you go and order the Pad Thai, don't mention me, because maybe they won't give it to you. That was an interesting job, but I think that, it's a cool... Oh, boy. That's what we need to aspire for.
My recommendation for this week is, if next week you find yourself on a Wednesday with no plans and don't know what to do, go to the Super Smash Bros. Club. You'll be with open arms and probably with a lot more friends than you would expect.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people in the club. Alright, so thank you so much for listening. We're about to wrap it up. If you want to hear new episodes or you want to hear updates, go ahead and, I'm not sure what this is posted on, but, the equivalent of subscribe.
if you're on YouTube, subscribe and comment, and if you're on SoundCloud, do whatever the commenting system is on there.
Yeah, so we will be back in 2 weeks, and thank you guys so much for listening. The Inside 2021 podcast is hosted by Connor McGrath and Logan Butika, under direction of Linda August. Editing is done by Connor McGrath and Nathaniel Bensan. For any suggestions, questions, or concerns about today's episode, you can talk to either of us between class, or reach me at cmcgrath2021@svak12.org,
or me at lbutika2021 at svak12.org.
To be a guest on a future episode, you can talk to either one of us in the comments, through the email, or just in real life.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.